So without further ado, Mara and Audrey, let us introduce the hip hop Headucatorz.
Woo! So if we can call them up, I think we have Chase March, Mike All, Tiggs. I don't know who else, sorry, but welcome them up, everyone, and give them a warm round of applause in the chat. And A Cubed, please come up too.
That's good, guys.
Take it away.
Check. Greetings. Thanks everybody for coming through. Leaders of the future. We pass the mic to you. Happy to build with you on this Thursday evening. Like Mr. Consul said earlier, you could have been anywhere. You chose to be here with you. We'll make it worth your while.
All right, and I think we have a bunch of questions that our students put together. So I'll bring Audrey and Mara up. In terms of the questions, don't feel the need to answer every single one, but definitely if you have a response to the question, we want to hear your response, and we'll keep going until we run out of time, and maybe we can even play another track at the end. But the students have put together some questions, so Mara and Audrey, go ahead.
Good with spicy salmon roll.
Okay, so hey everyone. Okay, so we are going to start with an opening question. So we've all heard the term hip hop, but what is true hip hop and what are elements of hip hop?
Who wants to take this one?
So we can start with the DJ, because true hip hop, I know you know rap. You've seen rap, you know rap music, but rap is bigger than hip hop is bigger than just rap. It's a whole culture with 9 elements, and it starts with the DJ. So we'll let our DJ Chase Smart speak on that.
Yep, it started with the DJ. Looks like my camera's flipped the wrong way. Sorry if you're seeing me backwards, but hip hop started with the DJ, and it started with dancing and actually just getting the break part of the record. That's the part where it's just the drum beat and a few sounds. And brilliant DJs realized that they could extend that 5-second, 10-second break and make it go back and forth by playing just 2 records. This was before samplers or drum machines or anything like that. We were doing that with just records. And so those are the first 2 elements: DJing, breaking. It's breakdancing is called breaking. And then there's the graffiti art, which is writing. That's what they like to call themselves, those artists. And then the last element is rapping. So rapping is the most modern of all of them. The other stuff came way before that.
Thank you so much.
And there's like, those are the official 4 core elements, as Chase March mentioned. And then with movements like Zulu Nation, they added on some extra 5 to make it like 9, like a solar system. We used to have 9 planets. Rest in peace, Pluto. So to add on to that, I missed one: street entrepreneurism. So yeah, as was mentioned, DJing, breaking, graffiti art, emceeing, beatboxing, making music with your mouth, percussion sounds through your mouth, breathing, street knowledge, street fashion, street slang, street entrepreneurism. So that was like the complete set, according to some people. Zulu Nation, 9.
Awesome. All right, cool. Thank you for that. I can move on to the next one then. So how do you think hip hop can be better utilized in today's educational system?
Anyone want to take this first, or?
Go ahead.
I can
Mr.
offer something here. I think hip hop is a great way to storytell. You say a lot of words in the song, so with the story, you go deeper into that story and you get more details. And it's just a way to get more information and see different perspectives.
For me, I think I do most of the graph stuff and most of the art stuff for the crew. And for hip hop, for me as a teacher, and when I teach art, it's most about self-definition, because in graph you have your name, and then you have your real name, and then you get to create that style, that persona with your graph name, with your tags. You're taking up space, and that kind of builds confidence covertly, but then it kind of brings that talent out. So for me, hip hop and redefining yourself, it's really strong, especially with graph.
And just a plug for Tiggs. I'll step out the way so you can see it. If you like our logo, that was designed by Tiggs himself. Dope, definitely dope visual artist. In hip hop, lends itself beautifully to the different strands. Within language arts, definitely nice design. Within language arts, reading comprehension. You can read poetry, the lyrics. Good MCs write really deep poetic lyrics. You can read that for reading comprehension. Not only Shakespeare, you could read some deep poetry. And when you have to write your own original poetry, that's the writing strand. And then reciting it, oral communication. And then analyzing music videos, analyzing the media production, that's media literacy. And then visual arts, you can cover that with graffiti art, calligraphy, dance, dance movement. You can have a b-boy. Shout out to Matt Device, our main breakdancer for the Hip Hop Headucatorz. Come through, do a workshop, stuff like that. So the elements really lend themselves to the strands that are already built in our curriculum.
Even music, if I can jump in. A lot of people think of music as just being, oh, you got to play the instruments or you got to sing, but you can break down units. Like when I teach music, I like to teach different units of music history. So you can do blues, you know, and you can do hip hop as a unit. You can also talk about creating music electronically. And that is actually a course that's available in some high schools. There's electronic music. So there's a lot of different ways hip hop can be utilized in the classroom.
And just to repeat one thing Tig said, hip hop's about self-expression, authoring your own story, and definitely hip hop helps build that confidence with that and recognizing the worth of your story.
Cool. That's kind of awesome. I love the artwork that Tiggs had made, your logo. So thank you so much for that. Let us get into our leadership question. So on the theme of leadership, how has hip hop helped you develop into a better leader, or in general terms, how has hip hop helped you as you were growing up?
You want to take this?
I definitely want to speak on that for sure. Number one, hip hop helped me to listen. You might see from my energy, I'm pretty hyperactive and such. It was obviously worse when I was younger till I got disciplined. So I was the type of dude who act before thinking. And I loved hip hop so much. I loved rap so much. I wanted to know every single syllable, every single breath. It really forced me to stop, pause, think, listen, rewind the cassette tape, because that's what we were listening to at the time. Rewind the cassette tape and study what they're saying. So it really forced me to slow down the noise in my mind and listen. And on the flip side, once I gained my confidence, it gave me that push to share my voice, to tell my story, that confidence to you know, speak who I am and speak my truth. So listening and then speaking.
And just to add to what Mike all said, to add to that confidence, when you're recording and making rap, you're repeating the same thing over and over again. It's not just repetition. Each time you do it, you're getting deeper into it. You can put different spins on it and different voices and different things like that. So that just, for me, that's the number one thing that I got from it in terms of leadership and help, that perseverance, that sticking with something and repeating it till it gets mastered. And you can do that with anything.
Well said.
Now to piggyback Aaron, the idea behind self-confidence, just to piggyback that again, back in the day, we used to do all elements. So I did graph, you know, I wasn't really good at DJing. Shout out to Chase March, because, you know, it wasn't something we could do. But when you used to B-boy MC, you had to get the confidence to get into the circle and then be okay to get critiqued, you know, because sometimes you might come out and your friends are going to be like, oh my God, that's whack. Don't say that ever again, blah, blah, blah. And then you don't just stop. You keep going, pushing forward. So hip hop really allowed that, because sometimes, for the most part, you know, your peers are your best critiques and they're going to be honest with you. And sometimes it's hard to hear criticism, but with hip hop and being able to just, because it took a long time for me to actually step up and like put my name down or get into a circle. And really hip hop allowed me to be okay with being criticized, because I just built forward.
Awesome. All right. Thank you all. That was really informative. I get what you mean. Tiggs. Can I call you that? Is that?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, cool. Okay. Yeah. No, yeah, I get what you mean. Like, I guess you just kind of learn how to be resilient and like, I guess it does
Exactly.
sound cheesy, but like follow your dreams, or, you know, like you get to,
No.
yeah, you learn
Yeah.
how to do that. So cool. Thank you for that. So for every meeting, this is questions in terms of equity.
One sec, sorry, before we jump
Yeah.
to the next question, if Chase, did you have anything to add to that one, or?
I would have said some of the same stuff Tiggs did, but also I had a chance to be a little bit of a leader just because I was bringing in groups and mentoring. And that's kind of a cool thing that I found hip hop has always been able to do. Like you learn how to do something because your buddy knows how to do it. There's a lot of people that got into DJing before YouTube or anything like that when you could go explore videos and go, oh, that's how they did it. I had to stand over somebody's shoulder to go, oh, that's how they did it, right? So I wanted to be able to do that as well. So I taught some of my homies, my buddies, how to write rhymes, how to count bars, and how to do some basic DJ stuff. So being able to be, where I am artistically, I also get to be a leader and help other people get into hip hop.
Thank you for adding on. And one last thing I'll add as well too, integrity, living by what you write. There, of course, there's an element for fantasy and exploring make-believe in any type of music. But a lot of true school MCs, we try to live by what we write in our pen. We try to stand by the words we say. So in leadership, we're leading not just by words, not by just talk, but by walk. So it kind of inspired me to live by what I'm writing it down. If I'm writing it down and trying to drop jewels and knowledge, then I gotta live by it too.
Yep, stick with your word. Thank you for that. Okay, cool. So yeah, in terms of equity, every meeting we have a monthly theme, and today's theme is equity. And I love how the whole hip hop Headucatorz crew is just so culturally diverse. So for these next two questions, we just want you to give a rapid fire answer. We'll give you an opportunity to clarify your answer after. So yeah, I'm just gonna say it, and then each of you can give your quick answer, and then we'll ask you guys at the end if you want to clarify any of your answers. Just raise your hand and then you can go ahead. So first question, on a scale from 1 to 10, 1 being absolutely no equity at all and 10 being full equity, how would you rate today's society if we define true equity as meaning equal opportunity? I see a 5. Okay. Yeah, why not? Let's have a fun game here.
Say yes.
7. Okay, Aaron says 7.
7,
Tig
6.
says 6.
I saw 5.
Chase, yes. March, yes. Is that a 7? I can't. 7, 8, something like that. Okay, cool. All right. Second question. Will true equity, aka equal opportunity, be achieved in your lifetime, your child's lifetime, your grandkids' lifetime, or longer? What do you think the answer
Let's
is?
go around the circle. Let's go. So we'll go Mike, Chase, Tiggs, and Aaron. Which lifetime?
Longer.
And longer too.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. Longer.
When did Star Trek first get launched the 5-year mission?
Like the show or where they're supposed to be in time.
When the 22nd century? Maybe?
Yeah. Okay. Does anybody want to clarify any of their answers for any of those? Yeah, go ahead.
I'd like to clarify my last one of longer.
Mm-hmm.
And even though, I'm in that regard, I'm kind of like not super optimistic.
Mm-hmm.
That's more motivation and more reason to keep pushing for equity, right? The fact that I have those reservations and doubts. And I'll say this, I didn't live through slavery. I didn't live through segregation. But I never thought I would live to see a Black president. And the world proved me wrong. So even though I think that it'll take longer than grandkids' lifetime to have equity, maybe the world will prove me wrong. Maybe you all leaders will help push it forward and make that change.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, does anyone else want to provide any? Yeah, go ahead, Aaron.
I'll clarify the first one. Yeah, so I said a 7 because I just think if we look back in history, we're at the best time. Being alive right now, we're at the best time we've ever been in. 100 years ago, it would have been very different. 500 years ago, it would have been very different. And I just think that every day when we wake up and we're breathing, we have opportunities to do different things. Even if you're making a mistake for 5 years, for the last 5 years, it's one day, it's one moment and one opportunity that is going to change that, and where you're not making that mistake anymore. So that's why I said a 7. And 30%, it's things that, it's not really in our control. It's the systemic stuff. It's the things that a bunch of individual choices are going to eventually change.
I also clarify my first answer. I think a lot of inequity in life is financial. And I think if we can follow certain certain kind of formulas or pathways, we can do things that can actually break generational poverty. And if we can do that, we can actually turn things around in our lifetime. So I know a lot of people think debt is a normal part of life and that there's student loans and there's all these things. I tell you, it took me over 10 years to get rid of my student loans, and I couldn't do it without my wife. So that's just sad that I got into that much debt for such a long time because I didn't know much better. And I know financial literacy is kind of built into the curriculum now, which is great, but there's a lot of people that live paycheck to paycheck. Some people can't even get to the next paycheck. They have to use cash advances and things like that just to survive. But if we can get people out of that, and we can do that in our lifetimes, especially if families hunker down and really work at it. There's a financial guy called Dave Ramsey. He's got a book, The Total Money Makeover. It's brilliant and lays out steps to do it. So that's one thing I think that we can do, and we can get better quicker.
I know I said 6, and that's me being optimistic, and that's me being honest too, because a lot of what everybody's just said in the crew, I 100% agree with, and that there's going to be moments to change, but also that, you know, the world's changing too, and I'm still trying to differentiate between equity being given the opportunity or the goal. You know, like that example of you put a garbage at the front, everybody takes a shot into a classroom, everybody gets the opportunity to shoot the ball into the basket of garbage, but everybody's at different distances. So, you know, everybody has the opportunity to shoot, but I mean, everything's going to be different in terms of distance and goals. And the world's changing rapidly. You know, we've seen it, we've felt it, we've lived through it in the past 2.5 years, things have changed. And now it's really determining what those goals are. So me being 6, it's very optimistic. But I do think the change is happening. I do think it's possible.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's a good thing to be optimistic, but I think it's better to be realistic so that we're not like passive to the problems that we are facing in the society. So it's better to do that and confront the issues instead of just kind of ignoring it. So yeah.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah. So, well, just in addition to that, for the rating question, if you gave it a low rating, or I guess any rating, give us a piece of advice that you think we could do to implement in our lives that could help reach a 10. If you kind of already didn't do that, some of you already kind of did a little bit, but
I think
yeah.
a 10's a 10?
A 10, yeah. Tough question, loaded question, but anything works.
Another E word, if we want equity, empathy. If we want equity, empathy is a great path towards that. Because if you understand another person's story, their struggle, their pain, and you see that it's all one, we're all in this together, even if we're coming from different places. But if you understand another person's point of view, that will help resolve a lot of conflict and maybe prevent us from acting in certain ways that discriminate others. So empathy.
Yeah, if you DJ or you make a playlist or you do these GOAT conversations, what are the top 5 MCs of all time? If you do not have a female artist, if there are not women in your list, that's a problem right there. So if you're a DJ and you have a radio show and I don't hear a female track in an hour, that's a problem. You know, so we need to balance things out a little bit more, make sure that women have their voice. International Women's Day is next week, and my whole show is all focused on hip hop's better half. That's one thing that we can do.
I think just practicing kindness. Kindness makes people want to be around you. Kindness is what people need, and it transcends what color your skin is. It transcends how much money you have. If you're looking through that lens of kindness, you're going to make those good choices. And when all of you are bosses and CEOs one day, and if you're making your choices based on kindness, good things are going to happen.
10. I'm so
Yeah.
far on 10.
9.9.
9.9 I can get on. Okay, so I would say probably mere preparedness. Now it's gonna sound kind of weird because the idea of mere preparedness is just seeing what the opposite thing is gonna happen and then being prepared for that to happen. So you have your goal to go from point A to point B, but then what could go wrong? You know, what variables could happen that you're gonna have to be prepared for. So it's just trying to see all angles at all times. I know that's a very big, wide, broad stroke to think about, but again, the world's changing rapidly. So, if we look at now, information is just so readily available, you can somewhat predict what to prepare for now. I mean, you guys are all on Blueprint at one point or another. There's some good steps that are there to take place. So I'd say being aware of also with mirror preparedness is whenever you're in an argument or you're in a discussion, it's looking at the other angle and seeing what their point of view is and seeing what they're basing their foundation on. And then that way, exactly how to prepare for it as well. It's something you probably, some of you've done in debating as well. So that's 9.9. That's the best I could do for 9.9.
Okay, thank you so much. I love how Michael said empathy for equity. And I love how, as well as Chase March had mentioned, that equity isn't just about like focusing on racism. Like it's all about feminism, etc. So thank you for that. I love how Tiggs also said being prepared, like reaching that 9.9, not that 10. It's like getting close enough, just getting like close enough to like take that leap of faith, you know what I mean? So last question on terms of equity is, how can hip hop help us achieve true equity? So not true hip hop, true equity.
One way I think in which it can help move us towards equity is raising awareness. You can Google Public Enemy, Chuck D. Some of the content you might need to have parents guide you through it, but Chuck D, the front MC for Public Enemy, they're like Kendrick Lamar before Kendrick Lamar, rapping about politics and injustice. So Chuck D said rap is the black man's CNN. And you can replace that with the BIPOC person CNN, the woman CNN, the working class person CNN, the LGBTQ person CNN, etc. Hip hop gives that voice to those people who are normally muted, who don't get to tell their story. And so because that voice is now given a chance to shine, people understand other points of view, understand other stories, and hopefully that can raise empathy and lead us towards equity.
Mine is not as robust, but I would say listen to the lyrics and care about the lyrics for hip hop, because again, it was poetic art. It is a poetic art. So the beats are great. You can bounce to it. It's nice, but at the same time, the lyrics count too, because people are saying stuff. And remember, hip hop started as a youthful movement, especially with graph. If you listen to like some of the terminology like force field and bombs and wild styles, some PhD didn't come up with that. It was the youth that did. And you can see how far it came from then till now, moving mountains, being the CNN of the urban areas. There's so much that youth can do. So, just care about it, care about everything that comprises it.
Yeah, man, true school MCing is lyricism. It's not just rhyming the same word over and over again. It's not mumbled. It's not just auto-tune. If you're a true school MC, you're trying to put meaning and message behind your words and do it in a fly way. And another thing, it's a different word, but it's merit, right? Merit is based on you get the reward for your work, right? And hip hop is supposed to be based on meritocracy. If you're skilled, you can throw down. If you have ability and talent, you can showcase it. So it's not like, favoritism. It's you got to earn your spot to get that props. Hey, Cube or Chase, any thoughts on?
I'll add to what you said, Mike. I mean, it's that empathy thing again. You gain stories, you hear different stories through hip hop, and then you get that empathy. You have more understanding, and you make, whenever you have more understanding and less assumptions, you make better choices.
Yeah, I would agree with that too. Even when it comes to religion, like you can learn, like Islam is the unofficial hip hop religion. There's a lot of Islamic rappers. There's a lot of things that you can learn just by listening to lyrics and maybe doing a little bit of a deep dive and going into some interviews and things like that. So I think expanding your horizons and listening to a track that you might not otherwise listen to. There's gay hip hop these days. There's feminist hip hop. There's religious hip hop. You can kind of go in a zone listen to something you might not otherwise have listened to and learn from it.
Awesome. All right. Thank you for that. Okay, cool. Whew, that was a doozy. Okay, we're gonna move on to our concluding questions, a little bit lighter now. Actually, no, I lied. The last question's kind of tough. Okay, it's okay. You guys can handle it. Okay, the first concluding question. What are some movies, books, and resources that students can check out to learn more about hip hop?
Okay, I gotta flip my camera around so you can see because this is backwards.
The
Whoops, I did it.
librarian.
All right, so where you can't see it. Flip. Okay. Michael just mentioned this guy, Chuck D, This Day in Rap and Hip Hop History. This book is awesome. It goes down like year by year and shows you some things that were happening that day and that year. There's November 22nd, 1994, things like that. So there's a lot of cool history in this book. Chuck D, This Day in Rap and Hip Hop History. One of the pioneering people we should never forget about is Grandmaster Flash. This is his autobiography. He changed the way DJing is done. He was the first person to touch a record. Back in the old days, people would just put the record down without touching it, so you wouldn't get your fingerprints and things on it. He touched them. He manipulated it with his hands and did all these sorts of cool things. So you can learn a lot about that man. Kathy Iondelli just released this book last year, and it is about women in hip hop, the essential history, and it is a great read. A lot of people don't realize that women have been in hip hop since the very start. The first hip hop promoter was a woman. The first hip hop mogul rap record label was run by a woman as well. So cool stuff in there. And I also have the rap yearbook. This one is very similar to the Ice-T one. It breaks it down by what were important records of every year in hip hop. So know your history.
Cool.
Anyone
Okay.
want to get on it? I'll just go because I have the floor right now. In terms of resources in the city, we're all in Toronto, right? Just checking that out because there's before it gets painted over, just a resource of just experiencing it. You know, if you go into the Kennedy, go to RT, you know, go just take the blower line down, you know, all across the city. You can see beautiful graph from the 90s when you're just on the RT, getting to Kennedy Station. Now go from Kennedy down to Keele before it goes. You know, you had the Midas building by Keele Station. You know, we painted, not we, myself, but, you know, hip hop painted the city for decades. And a lot of that's going to go. And if you really want to see, I know everybody knows about the graffiti alley that's down by Queen, but if you go up by College and Spadina, there's a store there called Toronto Collective. And there's some writers and b-boys that are there, some MCs that are there. Don't be afraid to go in. It's the only real graph hip hop shop in the city right now, with guys that have been putting it down for decades. You know, and they have real stories of Toronto that, you know, just hip hop in general, like leaving, spreading it out. Because when you talk about like b-boying as an example, there is a Toronto style that goes it's all around the world. They copy it now all around the world. And it started here, you know, with Boogie Brats and Supernats and BTX and you know, Bag of Tricks. So there's a store there that's a wealth of stories and resources there that's not on print and not on television. So I would definitely that's a good place to start with hip hop in Toronto. If you have docs, I mean, The Freshest Kids for b-boying, a good movie to check out. And it is a good one to watch with family. It is very dated, but Beat Street, I know it's kind of like the watered down hip hop movie of the 80s. It's not supposed to be as street, but as like Wild Style or Star Wars. But definitely, if you can check it out, Beat Street's, you know, fun for the fam.
Would anyone else like to add on to that before we go to our final? Go ahead, Michael.
Firstly, I just want to shout out, Chase had mentioned the book about praising the queens of hip hop. Shout out to the Apologette. She wanted to come, she was going to come, but she had an appointment with her son. And of course, mother duties come first, but love from the apologette to you all. She said, keep being leaders and doing your thing. If you have Netflix, you have access to one of the, if not one of the best comprehensive hip hop documentaries. I'm gonna type it in the chat. Hip Hop Evolution. Hip Hop Evolution. Maybe there's like 4 or 5 seasons. I can't remember exactly. It's hosted by Shad. Please do. That's their homework over March break. It's hosted by Shad, who's a dope MC himself from London, Ontario. And it really like breaks down the hip hop history like in the most detailed way I've ever seen. And then in terms of a book, I recommend Hip Hop World by Dalton Higgins, which basically talks about hip hop expanding just beyond North America to all of the world and how it's become a global phenomenon. I would say even a universal phenomenon. You know, the Rings of Saturn are really DJ records, and Galactus is scratching, making beats out of the cosmos. So Hip Hop World by Dalton Higgins and Hip Hop Evolution on Netflix.
I got Hip Hop World in my collection. Right
Hey,
here.
there you go.
I got it from a discard. It looks like it's from the library, but it's when they do the used book sales. You can get cool books that way, guys.
And start at the beginning. For those who said they're going to check out Hip Hop Evolution, start with season 1, start with the foundation. A Cubed, anything to add on?
I think that's enough homework. You guys are have much more in that regard than I do. But thank you guys.
Thank you so much for that. I might actually have to check out that show, Hip Hop Evolution. I've been looking for a new Netflix show to watch anyway, so maybe something I can binge. Anyways, for our final question, because it's amazing to have you all here, I'm sure that many of our student leaders are in the process of finding who they are, as you all have found hip hop. What is one piece of advice that you'd like to give to your 13-year-old self? So a little personal, but also advice to our young student leaders here at CSLIT.
My 13-year-old self wouldn't have listened to my 40-year-old self.
Not the advice, listen to your elders.
Yeah, no, don't trust anyone over 30. No, you can learn from everybody. You can definitely learn from everybody. If you have a time machine, you can learn from yourself. If you can't, do what feels right, follow your heart, go after your dreams. Don't let anybody tell you you can't.
I'll go next. I would tell my 13-year-old self, slow down, think before you act, slow down, think before you act. Shout out to Brand Nubian, a 90s hip hop group. They had a song called Slow Down. So I would say, listen to Brand Nubian, slow down. And like my grade 7, 8 teacher used to tell me, resist the urge to act impulsive. Resist the urge to act impulsive.
Yeah, I would tell my 13-year-old self not to give up. There's times where I've given up on things, and I wish I had seen that through and saw what that ending was like.
I would have told my 13-year-old self, do not take that spray paint from the garage. You will get caught. Mr. Malat saw you buy it. No, I'm just joking. Well, I was much younger. But I would probably tell myself, just try. You know, it's okay to just try and fail. Because sometimes there were a lot of moments where I wanted to act on something, I wanted to do something, and I just didn't feel like I could be a part of it. So I just didn't try and put myself in a vulnerable position because, you know, I was scared. And I would have told my 13-year-old self, just, no, it's not that big of a deal. You know, just try it out. Eat that broccoli. That's it.
Amazing. Okay, that concludes the list of questions that we have for you guys. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us today. It was really informative. I honestly, like, whenever I listen to hip hop, it's just kind of like music that I listen to. I never realized how deep it was until now. So thank you for that. Truly, like, opened my horizons. And I'm gonna definitely look into that Netflix show too, because I do need something new to watch. So thank you for that as well.
Me as well. I just want to echo everything that Audrey had mentioned. You guys are so amazing, especially when we saw you at ILIT. You guys are incredible. So having you guys back here again is an amazing opportunity, and hopefully we get to see you again soon. But we do have, being that we are just a little bit early, I think we can play that one track that Mike wants to play.
John, turn your mic on, man.
Ayo, the classroom's closed, but our minds are free. COVID, God, we. Teaching at home, yeah. Teaching at home, yeah. Teaching at home, yeah. Teaching at home, yeah. The classroom's closed, but our minds are free. COVID, God, we. Teaching at home, yeah. Teaching at home, yeah. Teaching at home, yeah. Teaching at home, yeah. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, COVID, got me. Teaching my class behind a glass and a keyboard, checking each second to minute for any reports. I'll be going back to pens and pencils, chalks and blackboards. I'm thinking about my password for the ride on Google Classroom. No, you got to know we got things in control. When push comes to shove, teachers, we are known for making do with what we got. So what's the difference with the spot that really got us in? So let's begin. I got nothing but love for the frontline works who put it down for us all. So remember, isolation is the option, cause it's families we are watching. So our prayers are for more than 100,000 not forgotten.
Educators stay at home over icon beats. Used to write on sheets, now type bomb speech. COVID-19's got us living through screens, trying to upload hope and stay close remotely. Stroke keyboards, building Google Classrooms, paranoid about Zoom and video chat rooms. Study to know, e-learning modes. Why don't every child have device at home?
Hey yo, COVID-19 got me teaching at home. Texting the crew about work, gotta reach for the phone. Call me Capone, the OG of this online stuff. I've been ahead of the game, I'm quick, hard to catch up. And now I'm planning all these lessons online for the students. They're all good, but there's always room for improvement. It's difficult, I'd rather teach kids in the class. The forecast, too hard to say when we'll be back.
You know, this COVID isolation got me replaying days of normalcy and classroom slaying. Missing them kids while keeping safe from contagion. Working distance learning like Hawaii ball playing. Gotta learn some patience, yo, we know this ain't ideal. Uploading videos with that social appeal. This moment is absurd, just like a play by O'Neal. But the crew be holding it down to Yoda Sarni at appeal.
I don't ask my students to do anything I wouldn't. Took plenty of online classes myself, that's not prudent. Not stuck in the classroom though, get comfortable and prove you can adapt, learn and grow. Put in the effort to show where you're at. Do things you shouldn't or couldn't while in class, and enjoy the change of routine, make it your own. Surprise both of us with how this goes.
Je ne sais pas qu'est-ce que j'en sais moi. The directive is to teach from home and online for a mix with the use of phone. Feels like I'm walking this path at night without a map nor a flashlight. With some trial and error, this online learning is gonna take flight. To COVID-19 seems like the best response. On commence la renaissance.
When life gives you lemons, you can still make something sweet. Let me break off some advice as I spit to the beat. Don't forget your fitness, find the time to get it in. Exercising can be hard, it takes work and discipline. First and foremost, be safe and keep your distance. Still so much we can all do. For instance, walk, skip, squats, dips, knee-high kicks, wall sits, Russian twist should all do the trick. That's a couple exercises, but there's many more. Yo, I know you're bored, you just got to hit the floor. You got nothing but time for you to build your core. You can make a game of it and try to beat your friend's score. Your education's vital, but it doesn't top your health. Try to keep up with your studies, but prioritize yourself.
Ayo, the classroom's closed, but our minds are free. COVID, God, we. Teaching at home, yeah. Teaching at home, yeah. Teaching at home, yeah. Teaching at home, yeah. The classroom's closed, but our minds are free.